Ciao, buongiorno, and welcome to the very first episode of Tales from Tuscany. So my name is Marisa Raoul and I'm a writer here in Sydney, Australia. I'm not in Tuscany, unfortunately, and I won't be there straight away. But what I'd love to do with you in this brand new channel is share with you the journey I've been on for the last 2 years and what lies ahead. Now, I haven't been alone. I've been accompanied by my beautiful partner, David, on this journey. But he and I have done so much because we've purchased this house sight unseen during a global pandemic. A thing that most people would be absolutely scared to their wits to do something like that. Well, it wasn't easy and it was challenging to say the least, and there are lots of hiccups along the way. But do you know what? I've got so much knowledge to share with you now because of that. I've got so much information, things that you've never thought about, I can share with you. So the purpose of this journey now, starting now before we even hit Italy, is to get you prepared for our journey, prepare you perhaps to do the same thing that we've done, help you along the way if you're looking to buy a house in Italy but don't know what to do, and then take you physically with us when we get there for the very first time. And I'm so excited, jumping out of my skin to get there. Now that the world is opening up, hopefully it will be just around the corner. But in the meantime, let's share some time together. I will pass on as much knowledge as I can to you in the coming weeks and months ahead. And let's just enjoy this wonderful journey to CHIANNI in Toscana together. Thank you so much for being here today. Please subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and if you like the content that follows, please let me know in the comments, and please ask me as many questions as you like as well about the area that I'm moving to, about how we did this. If you'd like to see specific things in the coming weeks, let me know and I will try and help as much as I possibly can. But until then, let's sit back and enjoy the journey. Buon viaggio. Stay tuned. So, have you ever thought about just getting up, taking off and living somewhere you've never lived before, on the other side of the world? Well, I've thought about it many times and I've actually done it a few times as well. So I'm a little bit of an expert, I suppose you might say, at doing this kind of thing. So therefore, the nerves really aren't there, although I must admit, doing this from the other side of the world without being able to visit where I'm going is a whole other story. So this is where the story begins. Basically, I am a 60-year-old best-selling writer living here in Australia. I've done a lot of photojournalism, writing, lyric writing, all sort of things, travel expert. I'm considered an influencer on Instagram, and I've had a really interesting life. I feel very blessed for the wonderful things I've done. I've lived in France for a period of 10 years, and I've also lived in other places, including Italy, of course, on and off very many times over the decades. So this has been a dream of mine for a long time. But sitting in a house in lockdown in Sydney, my mother's house, alone, was something that really stopped me in my tracks. Being an avid traveler, and honestly, in the last few years, I've traveled overseas, sometimes up to 3 times in a year, pleasure trips or doing different photography stories, different things like that. Very, very blessed life. And then the world tells you you just can't do that, and it really does stop you. I was sitting at my mum's home thinking, where do I go from here? And in the meantime, I was trying to start a new life as a woman. Then all of a sudden, in the middle of this global pandemic, and I'm not going to say the C word, I found love. Yes, love, like love in the time of COVID, and it's been the most amazing thing ever that I can actually imagine that would have ever happened. It's just changed my world. It's turned it upside down. But on top of that, to find the perfect person during these difficult times, and then also for that person to share the same dreams, exactly the same dreams, was not just incredible or extraordinary. To me, it was a miracle that this man wanted to do exactly the same things as I wanted to do, that he was gung-ho and willing to follow my craziness. So I've been looking at going to live in Italy now for quite a few years, or at least have a property there that I would eventually move to. As soon as I explained this to my beautiful partner David, he was on board, and that's where the journey started. So for more than a year, probably 2 years now, I have been researching and researching and researching without ever being able to visit Italy, of course. And that's the process I'd really love to take you through as we move forward, because I know so many of you out there are just like me. You've been sitting in cities around the world or out in the country, wherever you happen to live, dreaming of other places, dreaming of where you could be, but thinking, I can't do this during these times. Well, you can, and a 60-year-old like me has done it and am in the process of doing it. And yes, you might say I have experience of doing these things, but I'm still going to a place I've never seen before, a village I don't know, that I've never visited, a part of Tuscany I've never visited, and I've bought a home that I've never been to. So it's a pretty big deal, and I really want to take you through all the steps leading up to that. So while I sit here in my apartment in Sydney, many thousands of kilometers away from my final destination, before we get there, I'd love to step you through what we did to get there, what I've done. And in this little video that follows, I'm going to show you just a few of the really basic tips I've got for starting out. And they might seem terribly basic, and a lot of you might think, oh, I know all this, but then again, a lot of you may not. I follow a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of different online platforms where I see people are real novices and they're really dreaming of these things, but really don't know where to start. So this is where I like to help you know where to start the process. And please remember to subscribe, to like this video if you have enjoyed it, and also to let me know in the comments how I could help you along the way if you have questions. And of course, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be bombarding you with loads and loads of information, which I really hope you enjoy. So come on this journey with David and I and follow what we do in the weeks and months to come. We were meant to be settling basically this week, probably today, and there was a hiccup with our Italian lawyer. Now, you're going to find that when you're dealing with other countries, there are going to be hiccups, there are going to be bureaucratic things that pop up, but I'm calm, I'm zen, and I know everything's going to work out in the end. And I think that's a really important thing, is always just stay very centered, focused on where you're going, what you're doing. There will be little things to hold you up, but don't let them stop you. So I'm going to leave you now with a few little initial tips and tricks that I have about things that I use. Enjoy, see you soon. So how do you search out villages, or how do you understand what a village or a town is like when you can't travel to Italy? Well, that's where Google Earth really came into play for me. It allowed me to visit places. So for example, when I'd chosen CHIANNI as a destination, which ended up being where we've bought our property, I went onto Google Earth, popped the name of the village in. As you can see here, here's CHIANNI. If I just zoom in for you now. And it allows you to see the overall area of the village. It also lets you see the surrounding countryside, which is awesome. It gives a little explanation over here also of the village. But then the wonderful thing about Google Earth is you actually get to visit the village in a lot of cases. So wherever there are streets going through the village, if you then tap on the little person down here, if you've not used Google Earth before, it lights up where you can physically drive, where that Google Earth car with the camera on top went. And this is how I got to visit CHIANNI. So for example, if I drop the arrow somewhere and then we zoom in. Whoa! All of a sudden we are in the village, and we actually start to drive our car by tapping on the arrows. We start to drive our car through the village streets. Now, this was awesome for me because it gave me the best view of what this little village was all about. Now, I don't even know where I've dropped here, so I'm not quite sure, but we'll probably end up in the heart of the village at some stage. Oh yes, I think I might know where that little house is. In fact, gosh, that was really, really great. I've dropped in exactly opposite. So our house is up this little tiny street, and we're not going to see it now because one thing I did struggle with on Google Earth is it never stops where you want it to stop. So literally we are just up the end of this little tiny corsiere, I suppose you would call it. It's a via, but the thing is it stops. It's not you can't drive up it. It's almost like driving up into a little, what we call a cul-de-sac in English, except not a drivable one. So you can drive up to pop things off, but you can't actually drive up and drive through. So you drive up and down the street here. But by me doing this, as you can see, I could see what the houses were like, what the streets were like, whether there were shops. If we come further down, and there's some gorgeous restaurants just down that little street, literally it takes us 30 seconds. Here's a little clothes shop and bazaar. We have a little fruit market here. So this is all within less than a minute's walk. Another little store here. We now come to one of the main streets where there's a mini market. There are other shops here, and around the corner there's a cafe bar in the corner, which is excellent. We have the municipio. There are more stores along here. We then have the council building, another square, and this is taking us up to the really sweet square where we have a beautiful hotel at the top. Oh, actually, it probably won't let me drive up. You have to drive the other way around. Again, it won't drive up one-way streets, of course, but there's a post office there. There's the municipio, and as you can see, it was an amazing way of me visiting the village on the ground, driving through as if I was actually there. I would note down names of stores. If I could see the name of the store in the front, I would then Google it. And that's how I really researched what was in the village, what kind of shopping we could do, what kind of conveniences they were, what services there were. It helped me immensely to decide on what our destination village would be, all the way here from Australia. Now for my 3 top websites that I used when searching for my home in Italy. Number 1 is definitely Immobiliare.it. Now that is, as it says in Italian just here, it's the number 1 for finding houses. In other words, it's really the largest website in Italy. So that is an awesome place to start out. It will translate everything into English for you pretty much automatically when it sees you're coming from an English speaking country. Otherwise, if you want to look at the original explanations, you can change the language into Italian. It's awesome. You can find everything there. Number 2 is Gateway.com. Gateway.com is an English-based website, really, really great. Maybe not so much variety as the other one, but does have a lot of houses also that come up for sale that are being sold by private sellers. So that's really, really interesting. And often you'll find different photography in this one to you'll find in the first one. And then number 3 is Idealista.it, which again is an Italian-based website, but as you can see, all in English, and you can change the language obviously back to Italian if you want. But again, just another great way of searching. All of them have different photography often with the different houses, so that's why I liked to search out even my property on all sites, which I found often did have different photos or different amounts of photos. So worthwhile having a look there. I hope this is useful to you.